Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cabincast. I'm Thomas, and with me today is Chris,
Hello.
Ollie,
Hello.
and Stephen.
Yo.
And today we are continuing our review of Battlestar Galactica with Battlestar Galactica Season 2.
Indeed.
So we finished watching this actually quite a while ago. I'm not sure if they're all up yet, Ollie.
They have started going up?
They have started going
No,
up.
they've finished.
They've finished going
They've
up.
just finished.
They've just
that's well
finished going
timed.
up. So, yeah. So this is quite well timed.
Yeah.
So some
It's a
things
really
might
late
be
cutting to this. Bloody hell.
a bit foggy for people. But yeah, season 2. Quick summary of where we left off on season 1, so we got some context. The fleet had found Kobol. There had been a military coup. President had been thrown in jail. And then Adama got shot by Boomer because she was a Cylon.
Indeed.
And
Was certainly
that's
tasty.
the initial arc for season 2 is resolving that, which is the Kobol arc.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the Kobol arc, which consists of episode 1, Scattered, episode 2, Valley of Darkness, episode 3, Fragged, 4, Resistance, 5, The Farm, 6, Home Part 1, and 7, Home Part 2.
Yeah, so we're going to start with those, discuss those kind of first, and then we'll go on from there. Obviously, spoilers for season 2.
Yep, lots of
They will not
spoilers.
be for later. Tom and Stephen have seen pretty much the whole show, but me and Chris have not. So we might talk about season 1, we might talk about season 2. We will also be talking about Razor, because we've also done that at this point. However, season 3 and 4 is unknown, so that's not going to come up. But spoilers for season 1 and 2, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start with Scattered. So Scattered is the episode which follows the immediate response of Adama getting shot from the last season. So he goes into the medical bay.
Yep.
As they try to sort of contain his critical situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cylons show up.
They do that, yes.
And the fleet all jumps, and Galactica loses the fleet.
Yes, it does. That was stressful.
So they've lost the fleet, and Scattered resolves around them trying to find a way to get back to the fleet. Because in the fleet is the only doctor, or one of the only doctors left, Doc Cottle, who's the person who they need to sort out.
Doc Smoker Cottle.
Yes, to sort out that at the point very, very ill Captain Adama.
Yes. I quite enjoyed watching the two medics trying to figure out what on earth to do.
Yeah,
they
4 medics, which are
get out of their
all
depth
that.
there, sadly for them. But
I think Colonel Ty really shines in this episode, and indeed the entire part of this season is very Colonel Ty, like Ellen Ty vibes as well. Very.
No, absolutely, it's great. Again, like a lot of the decisions he makes are not the right ones.
That's the point.
But that's the point, and he accepts that because he's like he did not want to be in command.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even want to be here.
Yeah.
But Adama showed up and was like, "You're coming with me. We're going back." And got
we
him
get
out of a bit of a mess because we get a flashback in this, right?
Yeah, we get a couple of flashbacks in this, which gives us some more info on Ty.
Yeah.
We see when they first meet as part of the crew. I can't remember if the ship has a name, but it's a colonial freighter of some type. Just after the Cylon
First
War.
Cylon War.
Where both have sort of been moved out of the military in the post-war cuts and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And Adama's thinking about getting back in and going into command, and Ty really, really doesn't want to do that. But they end up becoming good friends and they go in back together.
Yeah, because he doesn't really seem like he ends up wanting to do anything.
No,
Um,
other than drinking.
he doesn't seem like he's in a
Particularly good place, and so if nothing else, rejoining the military does seem to kind of rescue him from that.
Hmm.
But that's why Adama's not a big fan of Ella
Hmm.
as well. So
Mhm.
understandable.
Yep.
Very understandable. Very, 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 very understandable.
Because
Especially since she's a Cylon.
She may be a Cylon, she may not be. But
Absolutely.
she is definitely not
100% is.
the most annoying person in this season by quite some way, for me at least. Which isn't really something I expected.
Ellen Ty.
Ellen Ty, yeah.
Yeah, well, that will continue for a while.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I think Ellen Ty's quite well acted, but
Oh, she's
Yeah,
great.
it's
She's
great
really good.
acting. It's just, it's like
Character where you're like,
it's like
oh
Joffrey
God, not them
Baratheon
again.
in
It's a
Game of Thrones.
victory.
Yeah, you're meant to hate them, and they
Yeah.
are great
Yes.
at making you hate them. And
I
that's
just
really
hope that
good.
she didn't suffer from fans hating the character so
I
much that they
don't
hated her.
believe they did. They do some interesting stuff with her later on, but we'll get to that.
I mean, like again, we'll get to it, but like some of the episodes in this season with Ellen are like just still annoying, but like you've actually not the most unhinged person in this situation. There
Yeah,
are people who are making worse decisions than you somehow.
yeah. Oh, that will
Which is
continue. Don't worry.
crazy.
So Gator comes up with the eventual solution, which gets him out of this,
Yes.
which is to network the Galactica system, something that Adama would never
Yes.
agree to. But Ty, of course, decides that it's the only option, and they end up networking it, and we get a very nice bit of continuity.
And I caught it.
You caught, Ollie, you did.
I caught
Which
it. I'm
was
so proud of myself.
the virus got through the firewall that Gator set up at the end, right as they disconnect the system,
Yeah,
and is now dormant in the Galactica for a later date.
indeed.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Although it does have an immediate effect because it goes straight into the next episode.
Because yeah, they don't wait too long to spring that, but that was probably for the best because if people hadn't been paying enough attention and missed that, and then like 3 episodes later or something, it came back, some people might have just been like, "Well, what on earth's this?" Because you've not got the immediate context. Whereas one episode different, at least they'll probably still remember that was a thing.
It becomes a recurring issue for some of the earlier episodes. Meanwhile, on Kobol, we'll start with Kobol and then go back to old Caprica, as we've got to call it now. Crashdown, Darth Maul.
Crashdown, Sam Witwer
is taking control of the survivors, and they are attempting to recover medical supplies, but they fail, and the Cylons kill Tarn.
Tarn, the medic man, forgot the medic things, had to go back. The others went with him.
Tyrell and Calais. And yeah, it doesn't go well.
Because Tyrell is what's the thing? An uncommissioned officer.
Yeah, non-commissioned officer.
Non-commissioned officer.
The most senior non-commissioned officer.
Most senior, and him and Crashdown are having a lot of disagreements about how to do things.
There's a difference in rank and experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Basically, Crashdown is in charge because he's a commissioned officer, and they trump non-commissioned, but Tyrell is the more experienced by a long shot.
By a long shot. And he ends up making most of the right calls.
And then our final planet of this episode, Caprica.
Indeed.
Old Caprica, where Hilo and Starbuck have retrieved the arrow, and Hilo has basically just stopped Starbuck from shooting Caprica Boomer.
Yep.
Who we will eventually get a less annoying name to call her by other than like Caprica Boomer and Galactica Boomer. But
indeed,
we're still not there.
We're not there. We've got to wait for that amazing episode for quite a bit.
I promise you both, it fits very well.
And of course, we do end with them getting back to the fleet and getting the doctors ready, and Adama getting some stuff.
Yeah, get back to the fleet and be like, "Hey guys, yes, as you guys already know, Boomer's a Cylon. Adama's been shot. We lost the fleet momentarily, but we saved it. So everything's fine."
Yeah. Which leads us directly into Valley of Darkness, the next episode, which is the the consequences of that little issue with the virus.
When will you
Galactica
understand?
has found the fleet and then immediately loses power
Yep.
because the virus has shut it all down.
The virus has shut it all down, indeed.
And while they were escaping, recalculating the coordinates, the Cylons had also sent boarding parties, and one of those had crashed into the pod.
It had.
And there were Cylons conducting boarding actions.
This was the first time we saw this properly, and it was pretty terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Centurions move far faster than they should legally be allowed.
Yes, this is a good horror episode.
It's good sci-fi horror, absolutely.
Yeah, and the only weapon the Colonials have that can really defeat them is essentially grenade launchers, which is why they have that little thing on the bottom.
Explosive rounds, yeah.
The explosive rounds, they have two chambers, one for the normal rounds that they'd use on other humans, and one for the Cylon rounds.
Which
it's a nice
they
bit.
don't have many of, so.
Yeah, it's a nice bit of world building.
Yeah.
To show that they do take that threat seriously, even if not seriously enough.
Yeah.
Because
the main issue was like, right, we've got, kind of 1-2 shots of these each. You got it. You can't miss. Yeah, because these things pack a punch because they are the actual soldier ones. They're not just the humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got So the main plot revolves around Lee and some of his pilots. Obviously, Lee's currently on a bit of thin ice because he supported the president.
He did do that.
But it's Lee and a couple of his pilots trying to prevent the Cylons from getting to secondary damage control to vent the entire ship and kill everyone on board.
Yeah.
And
great button to have. Just vent the ship button.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can vent. I assumed it was that they can vent like compartments to kill fire, like they did in the miniseries.
It's I
Makes
highly
sense.
doubt it's one button, but it's like, obviously because they disconnected the system, the virus can only do so much because most of Caprica's systems, not Caprica, Galactica systems are still separate. But if they got to the right thing, then it will take some time, but they can just vent
They can do
everything.
it. Yep. So that's the main plot there. We also get a little bit of a side thing on Galactica with the president, Laura Roslin, getting out of jail.
Indeed.
Thanks to a friendly guard who is getting set up to help her escape eventually. Anyway.
Basically, yeah.
And she also has a few moments of rather tense hiding because they have basically no weapons.
They have no weapons. There again, that's a pretty great scene. For her, and she does pretty well. In those situations, which is good.
We've then got stuff on Kobol, so Tyron and Callie get back to the survey team with medical kits, only for their wounded companion to die.
Yes.
And Tyrrell's eventually the one who does that with a lethal dosage of painkillers in a very sad scene.
Yeah, it was very sad.
I think we also get Baltar's dream in this.
I was going to say, Baltar has his dream, right, at some point.
Dream sequences.
Yes.
It was so strange.
The first one we had was the one in the one at the end of the first season where he's in the opera house.
Yeah.
And this time he's got a baby with him. A baby that Adama then takes and puts into a river and lets it drift away.
Indeed.
Or
drown it.
It
drowns it.
Yes.
Is what Baltar thinks. At the very least.
Yeah.
So.
References to episodes of infanticide in the Bible, such as the Massacre of Innocents.
Indeed.
And also potentially a Moses reference. We shall see.
Yeah, Moses is the first time there's a massacre of infants, I think, but
yeah.
First of many.
First of many. Yeah. Freaking hell. Yeah, I'd say Moses, most likely.
We hop back to old Caprica with Starbuck and Hilo, who go to Starbuck's apartment, which, you know, assuming that the Cylons were actually doing this competently, or this isn't part of their plan, you'd think they would be looking at Starbuck's apartment.
Yeah.
But they aren't, and there's some interesting stuff on the wall, and some interesting information about Starbuck revealed in there.
None of which I remember right now, but...
Mostly broken home life stuff.
That's what it was.
There is some significance to some of the stuff around, some of like the random like painting she's done, but this is for later. And I believe Hilo took a picture of those things for some reason.
I think he did, maybe.
Either that or Starbuck took the picture for memory's sake or whatever.
Indeed, something like that.
Then again leads us on to Fragged, which mostly, with Galactica sorted out, because they end up repelling the team, mostly takes place on Kobol.
It does. And it's a very tense episode.
Yes. So they have a brief funeral for Tarns and Scoins. I can't barely pronounce that name. And we get the return of Mind Six, telling Boltar they died because Kobol is cursed, and that all of them are going to die because Kobol is cursed. They observe some Cylons building a missile battery, which they're going to use to shoot down.
Blood is Kobol, right?
Yes. That's, I think in a later episode it's actually said that.
It's said by the lady.
Yeah.
It applies here too.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's the first hint of the fact that there is actually a curse on Kobol.
It seems indeed.
And that every return does end up with blood being spilt. So they observe the missile battery, they know it's there to stop them from getting rescued. Crash down decides they need to destroy it.
Coming, yeah.
And we get another warning from Six saying the survivors will betray another, and that his life is in danger. And then they end up getting a bunch of... Basically, they end up having more Cylons there than they wanted, and Crashdown is trying to go ahead with it.
Well, so what happens there is because of Six saying all of these warnings, Boltar isn't paying bloody attention.
Yes.
To what he's supposed to be, because there aren't more Cylons.
Yes,
the Cylons have come back, and there's actually less, and they could have just gone to the other place, but Gaius is like, no, there were still Cylons there.
Yep.
Which forces their hand, and is the thing that causes them to betray them, and so it's, you know, cause and effect.
In other words, Boltar creates the situation he was trying to avoid by being unattentive.
Exactly.
They refuse to change the plan. Crashdown starts threatening Callie, who freezes up, and Boltar then shoots Crashdown.
Indeed.
Which then leads to Tyrrell getting his plan, going back to check the other area, realizing there's none there, and destroying it, which allows the Raptors to come in and rescue them, with Crashdown's murder being covered up by Tyrrell and Callie.
And Boltar.
Fragged.
And
Boltar
the other person who was there
says that, he died in the attack.
Hero, I believe he says.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Galactica, Doc Cottle finally arrives to help Commander William Adama.
Indeed.
And saves his life.
Yeah.
But he's unable to provide Roslin with cancer medication.
No.
So she undergoes a withdrawal, which makes her seem a lot more nutty.
Crazy.
Yeah. The Quarrel of
It's
12...
almost like spending God knows how long on hallucinogenic drugs.
Yeah, basically.
And then withdrawing from them whilst in late stages of cancer is a bad thing.
Yeah. The Quorum of 12, now that the crisis is over, has begun doing what politicians tend to do and demanding access to Roslin. To which Ty agrees after Ellen goes to visit Roslin and realizes that she's completely delirious and that this will work. Which, of course, then backfires because the Marine Guard smuggles medicine to Roslin.
That he got somewhere.
No, he had, because he's Geminon. so very religious,
That's
and
what it was,
it's
yes, actually, yeah.
the medication she's taking is a religious
It was a
herbal
religious
remedy.
herbal drug. It was a
Yeah.
drug.
So she's able to give an actual speech and
Mhm.
properly combat the claims that she's gone insane. And
Mhm.
in response, Ty declares martial law, which was absolutely the worst thing he could have done.
Yes.
It was not the smartest
God.
move.
He certainly had his times, didn't he, in his first three?
Yeah.
He did.
First four.
And
Yeah.
again, they were largely Ellen's fault, but yeah.
Because she's a Cylon!
Yep.
I still just think she's a sucky human.
On to Resistance, the next episode, which
Mhm.
is where the civilian ships begin protesting, because of course they do.
The human element, the worst element.
Yes. One of the ships, the Gideon, Marines open fire on an unarmed crowd of civilians after they refuse to give supplies.
That was not
This
good.
will come back later.
Come back a lot later.
Yeah. Or sort of.
It gets mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
Every time that there's some sort of discussion between the military and the civilians that's not going too well, you'll immediately be brought up. Hey, you're going to shoot us like you did on the Gideon.
And then we get President Rosalind's escape. With the assistance of Apollo, Racetac, and Duala, and the Guard. They escape the brig, and they go into hiding with Tom Zarek, Rosalind's political enemy, but someone who's also very used to fighting against entrenched governments.
Indeed.
So, not ideal.
No.
Tyrrell shows back up with the rest of the team and immediately gets thrown in a cell because they think he's a Cylon.
Yeah.
And Boomer then basically gets rejected by Tyrrell.
Yep. He's still very confused and doesn't know really what to think or what's going on.
And then Bolter gets, I think, tasked to determine who is a Cylon. Well, if Tyrrell is a Cylon. So what he does is he injects Tyrrell with poison, taking advantage of the fact that Boomer loves him, and presumably still loves him, to reveal all the Cylon agents aboard the fleet. To which she says there are 8 agents.
Indeed.
Bolter administers the antidote and clears Tyrrell of being a Cylon.
It's
remind me, why did they think Tyrrell
because
was a Cylon?
they were in. Tyrrell was having relations with
with Boomer, and thusly he must have been a Cylon,
lots
because
of
it's not like they can
opportunities.
manipulate you, is it?
I see.
Yeah. Lots of opportunities to meet and plan stuff. That's the idea behind it. Plus, we're dealing with Ty.
Parallel race in the universe.
As a par who's to Adama, who would at least show some discretion in this regard. Whereas
Would
Ty's
have,
just like,
maybe not so much now.
Yeah, maybe not now. On Caprica, Starbuck and Hilo are driving Starbuck's massive car.
Yeah.
Through Cylon occupied lands. This comes back to me, and as I say it out loud, I think to myself, really? And they get quite obviously attacked by what they think is Cylons, but is in fact a resistance group. They have a Mexican standoff, they persuade each other they're not Cylons, and they continue back to their base. And we get our introduction to recurring character Samuel Anders.
He's a guy.
He is a guy.
Yeah.
The leader of the resistance on Caprica.
And the member of the cornerball team.
Yeah, the sports team member. And then our last scene is Adama resuming command.
Indeed.
Although still very, very weak. Doesn't blame Ty for the mistakes made, understands the pressures of command.
Yep.
And then Boomer gets shot.
Yeah.
While getting in transit to the new Cylon prison.
Happy about that.
By Callie, wasn't it?
I was so mad in that scene.
Hey, it's not just me.
You're not allowed to have good things, everybody.
Nope. Because I'd really like Callie up to that point.
And then we get to a
Yeah.
more infamous episode, somehow.
Oh,
The farm.
God.
Infamous in a good way, though, this one.
This one was disturbing, but
This
it
one's very
made sense.
disturbing.
It's
Yeah.
great for the greater continuity.
Yeah, so this is where we start to understand a bit more what the Cylons are trying to do.
Yeah.
Starbuck's captured
Mm-hmm.
and is held in an abandoned hospital by someone who claims to be a resistance leader, a resistance member,
Yeah.
treating the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
That is obviously not the case, and
No.
Starbuck slowly begins to realize the horrifying truth that the Cylons are trying to interbreed with humans, and they're trying to do it in a very forced and horrible way.
Yes. This is the science Cylon.
Yes, the science Cylon.
The science
Simon.
at any.
Dr. Simon.
Yes, Dr. Simon. Science at any cost.
Yes.
As well.
She's told that Anders is dead as well, I think, at some point.
I think
There's
so.
a bit of a fling there, but Anders is very much alive.
Yeah.
And as he's leading a search party to try and find Starbuck, Caprica Boomer appears and says, "I will take you to Starbuck if you do not shoot me."
Yeah.
And of course, Hilo is like, "Yes, this is a good idea."
Yeah. Which it maybe
Does
was.
prove to be, because they end up managing to rescue Starbuck just in time after she destroys all of the machines.
Yep.
Ending the suffering of the women there.
She does, yeah. We'll skip past all the body horror, but it's very bad /
Yep.
good, depending on how you're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very comfortable.
And they get close air support from a heavy raider that Boomer had stolen.
Yeah.
Caprica Boomer, that is, not Galactica Boomer.
Because she disappears, and they're like, "She has abandoned us." And
Yep.
she returns. It's like, yeah.
And then we go for a few scenes on the human fleet where Commander Adama has returned and is now conducting a ship-by-ship search for Roslin and Lee, trying to salvage the situation, shall we put it that way.
Yeah.
Tom Zarek wants Apollo to denounce his father. Apollo doesn't do that.
Apollo's not that dumb.
Yeah. Adama's gotten into one of those states where he's convinced himself that it's one way and is refusing to sort of bend or compromise. So he's saying that the religious mission is religious crap. Fleet is not going to follow. And then the fleet, and then a third of the fleet does follow her.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh dear.
Oh no, they're stupid. I forgot we were dealing with humans who are dumb.
Yeah, and then we get some scenes with Galen Tyrrell talking about Galactica Boomer as just a machine, where Adama turns around and goes, "No, she was more than that." Then we get
because that's the thing for a lot of them, is that Adama, well, he did get shot by her, and obviously that hurts, and we'll come back to that, and he'll come back to that. But it's like, as soon as someone turns out to be a Cylon, everyone's like, "Yeah, we don't care about them, Cylon. Who cares?" It's like, well, no, you did care.
Yeah.
They were your friend. You can't just immediately pretend like none of it mattered in any way, because you're just lying to yourself as well at that point.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting and respective stuff about that, and it's nuanced, which is good. Adama then gives Callie her sentence, which is 30 days in a brig for an unlawful discharge of a firearm.
Which is not enough. But
which was a joke.
Yeah.
They need everyone on deck.
Yeah, I know.
Regardless of people's feelings about it. He also reminds Tyrrell that they will be seeing Boomer again. Rather ominously.
Yeah.
And then he goes and views Boomer's corpse in the morgue and has a little cry over it.
It does.
Which is, very sad. Which then leads us on to the conclusion of the Kobol arc, episode 6 and 7, Home.
Indeed. we're nearly through the first part.
Yeah, nearly through the first part. So Rosalind's now struggling to persuade what remains of the Quorum of 12 of Apollo's loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Zarek is plotting,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get closer to the president so he can have more power and control, and then maybe offer somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or at least that's what his friend is trying to get him to do.
yes,
He actually seems less into this, which is
which
interesting
is fair
development
enough.
for him. Yeah.
I think he's beginning to realise that he can just try and get power the normal way, seeing as
Yeah.
so many politicians are gone. He's
Yeah.
no longer on the far radical side of the left. He's quite simply just the left.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get Starbucks return with Hilo and Caprica
Caprica Boomer.
Boomer, which
Yeah.
goes predictably well. Nearly gets thrown out the airlock, only relenting because apparently she knows where the Tomb of Athena is now.
Mm-hmm.
Which
She
is the area
does.
they're looking for, which she does, so fair enough. Some sort of inbuilt memory into their
Indeed.
into their minds.
But yeah, once again, not my favourite Rosalind moment.
We also get the scripture's prediction on what would happen when you return to Kobol. Every
Indeed.
return to Kobol will result in a cost of blood.
Yeah, with our kind of religious figure lady who we've had for most of the show so far.
Yep.
Sure, she'll be fine.
Yeah. So they go to Kobol, and predictably, our religious lady dies by landmine.
There's a landmine there for some reason.
And then the Centurions that were presumably left on the planet ambush the party.
They do.
Caprica Sharon manages to gain Apollo's sort of trust when she destroys one of the Centurions.
Yeah.
Previously, he had been very, I'm going to point a gun in your face at first opportunity.
Yeah, he was very angry. Again, like, not her shot his father. A complicated situation.
Yeah. Meanwhile, with the rest of the fleet, Adama is trying to categorize what he has left. He appoints a pilot to replace Apollo because he's honest and loyal. That doesn't go well, and it leads to an accident, several accidents, which nearly kill people.
It's true.
And he later then has a conversation with Dee, who of course helped Rosalind escape.
Indeed, because she's a Cylon.
Which no one knows at this point, and no one will never know because Dee doesn't ever tell anyone, as far as I'm aware. To which Dee responds that he broke his promise to find the fleet a new home, and begins suggesting that he might. This has less to do with his opinions and more to do with his stubbornness. Adama dismisses her, but eventually turns around and asks for reconnaissance photos on Kobol and decides to reunite the fleet, deciding on a path of compromise.
Indeed, which turns out to be a good plan because they know how to get to the Tomb of Athena.
Yep. So we then get Head 6 and Gaius Baltar again in part 2, telling them that their child will be born in the cell built for Galactica Boomer.
Yeah.
Baltar loses patience, and there's a bit of a conversation. He starts mocking the idea of having a child with an imaginary woman.
Because he hasn't understood really what the prophecy is.
He then tries to make her off as being something part of his subconscious, to which she taunts him and encourages him to get a brain scan, which shows there's nothing wrong.
Yep.
Which proves, at least as far as we're aware, that it isn't a Cylon device in him.
No.
Sharon continues to guide, although Apollo remains somewhat suspicious, particularly of Sharon and Hilo together.
Yeah.
But again, Starbuck vouches for them and beginning to get a bit more connected at that point.
Yeah.
At which point Adama shows up with Billy and Chief Tyrrell, and reconcile, although there is a bit of a confrontation over
bit of a
Sharon, because
confrontation
of
over
course
Sharon, yeah.
there is.
Yeah, understandably.
He'd been shot by her a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely some trauma there.
there's some interesting scenes with Tyrrell where Sharon says that she remembers him, which begins to identify potentially like a shared consciousness, maybe?
Shared consciousness, maybe? Indeed.
Or at least the ability to download other memories.
Mm-hmm.
Zarek's underling continues his plot, but is told to stop by Zarek. But that doesn't work, and he ends up getting the rest of Zarek's men and tries to convince Caprica Boomer to basically start shooting so they can take over and go, oh, everyone's dead, it's only Tom Zarek left.
Yeah.
They get to the tomb. Plan's about to get conducted, but Caprica Boomer has decided that her loyalties lie, at least for now, with the Colonials and not Tom Zarek's rebels, and basically ends up ratting them out, shooting them.
Yep.
And the plot is discovered and stopped. And
Yeah.
they're able to enter the tomb of Athena, where we get our first look at Earth.
Everything gets very confusing again.
Yes, they put the arrow on a statue and a hologram of some sort.
A
This is
vision,
never
hologram.
explained by the way, so it's either a vision, a hologram, or they are straight up just teleported to Earth for a bit. But they stand on Earth and they discover that Earth is the place where you can see the constellations of the 12 colonies.
Which makes sense.
And that is the end of the Kobol arc.
Indeed.
Thoughts on that, everybody?
It's
Very
weird.
stressful, very tense. Pretty weird. But there were no real episodes that I had great dislike of.
Mhm.
I didn't love everything Callie did in the last couple of episodes, obviously. Ellen Tai is, she's annoying, but
It's
she's a
Ellen
good
Tai.
character.
Yeah.
But yeah, like lots of the stuff was like, no, what are you doing? But none of it felt out of place yet, which will change.
Yep.
Which will change quite drastically. Every decision here, though, like even the people, putting up resistance to stuff, and like all of that still made sense as well. I was like, oh yeah, they don't want all their supplies to be stolen. That's fair enough.
Mhm.
But yeah, so many tense moments. It's really interesting to see kind of in the first couple of episodes crash down, just slowly slipping.
Yeah.
Because Sam Witwer was amazing. And kind of losing his grasp and just be like, no, we've got to do this. We're doing it. I will shoot you if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because this is the better alternative to just you not going through with the thing that's going to get you killed anyway.
Yep.
So that's all great. It was really interesting to see the resistance. Even though it was a bit odd, the farm's really spooky. Dr. Simon is really creepy the whole time.
Kind of the point of them.
Which is
yeah.
kind of the point. But yes, he's a great new Cylon. All the stuff with the boomers, Sharon, is always kind of like, I really want to trust them, but I don't know if I should trust them.
Mhm.
And then obviously when I'm gonna get shot, which is sad. Boltar, he's
Yeah,
great.
Baltar's got more stuff towards the end of this series, and we will be
Yeah, there's
talking
not a lot of
about that.
Boltar at the start, but he's still, he does some suspicious things.
He's
Just
doing
nice
some
amount
stuff.
of Boltar.
Yeah, Boltar's great.
Boltar was great.
True. Yes, actually, you're right. Up until the last couple of episodes of season 2, Boltar was great.
I will remind you that in the original, Baltar was a villain.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a villain. He's the key reason as to why the Earth, not the Earth, the 12 colonies got destroyed.
Yes.
And but he's a good character. He's more he's more like an antagonist in some ways, kind of accidentally here.
Yeah.
Than a true villain.
Just doesn't
But
know
that
how
may
to
change.
behave.
No, he's like a man-child.
Yeah.
A very smart man-child.
Yes. So
Spoomer, yeah, her and the sports guy.
Mhm.
It's like, like I guess they're still on Caprica at the moment, aren't they, old Caprica?
they're still on Caprica at
Yeah,
this point.
so I'll talk more about that later. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll move on then to the two episodes that bridge the gap between the Cobalt arc and the upcoming Pegasus arc.
Indeed.
Final Cut and Flight of the Phoenix, dealing with very much the sort of aftermath of the Cobalt arc and setting up the beginning of what will be the Pegasus arc. Final Cut, my favorite episode out of the entire series.
I love Final Cut.
It's pretty great.
A very unique one, and I liked it for that.
Yeah, which again, they're basically filming a documentary, and they've already used a lot of documentary style cinematography in the plain old like imagery of the series. It's one of the key things they suggested, that they wanted it to feel relatively real, and they used the same shots they'd use on like an American Carrier to sort of give that atmosphere. So this comes quite naturally. The characters are great. Yana Beers introduced character who will eventually turn out to be a Cylon
at the end of the episode.
Very cool, very interesting.
Did not see coming
character.
that one. Like, it's kind of clever because you get the you get Dr. Simon, and kind of the whole time, like, he's almost definitely a Cylon, right? And it's like, yes, he is. Hey, we're right. Probably not going to see another for a while. Oh well, there's another.
There it is.
There's another one.
And it's
some of the human stuff, and like, again, the media stuff in this bugged me. But both the justification that Adama has about, like, yeah, but people need to see this to see that we are human, and also the fact that they were in fact Cylons, kind of made that all more okay, and less frustrating in hindsight.
Yeah. We
get the theme, don't we?
We do get the theme. We get the original Battlestar Galactica theme is hummed by a janitor, and then when the pilots come through, it actually blares on full.
That's pretty great. It's a pretty great moment.
Which is a nice callback. It does come back later. It eventually gets recast as the Colonial National Anthem, which is an amazing thing to do because, again,
that's clever, yeah.
John Williams track. Love it.
Was it a John Williams track?
I'm pretty sure it was a John Williams track.
Oh, damn. Did not know that.
No, me neither.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
We get stuff with Kat and Doc Cottle as well. Obviously, we get Kat overdose on stimulants, which is a continuous issue with her.
Indeed.
We get some hot dog. We get some stuff with Apollo and Starbuck. Now that they're both back to like full duty. We see Aaron Kelly, the second in command off the guy who's in command after Ty again, back in his normal station down in the flight pods.
Yes.
It actually be a while since I think we see him again, but always appreciated to see him.
It's true.
And we also get a little bit of Sharon, and this is why Beers was even on the Galactica, because she was trying to get some images of Sharon to confirm if the child was still alive, and of course she is. So,
I don't think that was a John Williams. Steve
Phillips,
it says here.
Oh, is it Steve Phillips? Okay, sorry, that's my mistake then.
I mean, it was heavily inspired by Star Wars.
Yeah, by Star Wars,
and thusly John Williams. So.
Yeah. Flight of the Phoenix, which deals.
This was a great one.
Yeah, this was a good one. This deals with the remaining issue of that virus, which they still haven't dealt with, which they get rid of at the end of this episode, and deals a lot with Tyrrell and his sort of feelings that he gets his energy out by building a new ship, which is the Blackbird, our stealth ship.
It's a beautiful thing.
Indeed. Giorgio Moroder. Stu Phillips is the guy who came up with Battlestar Galactica.
Mhm.
Giorgio Moroder apparently did the music.
Okay.
Oh no, Stu Phillips did. It's very confusing. Who knows what's going on? Never
It
mind.
said Bear
It said
McCreary
both.
and Stu Phillips, who made the original
Yeah.
song, worked
Mm.
together on that specific song you were talking about.
Okay.
Which makes sense as well.
I like Bear McCreary.
So good. Sorry, carry on, Tom.
So yeah, we get that. Hilo's also ostracized by his members for his relationship with Sharon. So it's a lot of dealing with Sharon and Caprica Boomer, who's now in jail.
Yep.
And of course they end up fixing both the virus and the backbone gets launched. I'm sure that won't get destroyed anytime soon.
No, it's a great moment though for this episode. You know, everyone kind of is like, "This is dumb. Why are we doing this?" And then as time goes on, they're like, "Actually, yeah, we do need something to give people more kind of morale and motivation." And
Yeah.
that's what this becomes, with everyone kind of like chipping in and helping out.
Everyone's like chipping in, and of course Ty's like, I don't like this. We should stop it. And Adama's like, no, it's giving him faith. Let him do it.
Yeah. And then he changes tune, and it's always the best thing when Ty changes his tune.
Yep. Which, of course, immediately then leads to a complete change in tune for the entire series, because then we get Pegasus and the Pegasus arc.
We get Pegasus, which
one of the best arcs in the series. It's a short one,
which
and it
for
introduced
Tom's great ability to accidentally spoil things, did a very good job of making me convince myself that he hadn't at any point mentioned to me when we've discussed Battlestar Galactica before we watched the show that there was another Battlestar.
Yes.
Because I was like, I swear we talked about this, but I guess we
Confusion
didn't.
and
Yeah,
misinformation
indeed,
were the key here.
It was good. Yeah.
So yes, Pegasus, the arrival of the second Battlestar, the much more advanced, more modern Battlestar Pegasus.
Yeah.
Commanded by Admiral Helena Kane, who's played by Michelle Forbes.
Cool ship.
Who's also on Star Trek in a supporting role.
Indeed.
We also get Colonel Jack Fisk as the second officer.
Yep, that name shouldn't cause any alarm bells for any reason.
Yep, and there's a few other minor characters that we get on there, which will become important later, but the one with the most impact later on is Lieutenant Hoshi.
Mm-hmm. The only good person on the ship.
Yeah, literally the only good person on the ship.
That's not true, but the only person who we seem to spend time with who actually seems like a...
Yeah.
that's still not entirely true. But for now,
he seems half decent. So, Stephen, however, let's get your thoughts on this, because obviously we've discussed this at length in our things.
In your covers of it.
Don't know
Honestly,
the whole time.
The Pegasus arc, when I first saw it, I had, like, in the way it's built up, you get the initial suspicion that they're encountering another ship, and I thought, oh, is this going to be another colonial ship? And I was really happily surprised, because I didn't know anything about Galactica when I was first watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pegasus arc as a whole, these 3 episodes, it is one of my favorite arcs in the whole show.
It's
very good.
It's such an interesting exploration of different things, because for one thing, you can see, not just in Razor, but in general, how different things could have been.
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch Razor until I got to season 4, whereas
Mm-hmm.
we all watched it together while you were midway through 2 before
we did,
Lay Down Your Burdens.
Yeah.
I didn't know Kane's backstory, but you could easily see she makes an interesting parallel to Adama, because she's the Adama who focused purely on taking everything apart and purely on the fleet. If Adama had been ruthless, that would be him. That would be the show, and it would be completely different.
Yeah,
but
she's just completely focused on the mission.
And the mission is just death to Cylons. Death to Cylons.
Death to Cylons. Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing about the two of them compared to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Adama's mission is to protect people, to give them hope, and to survive. Kane's is vengeance, and you can really feel it, especially when the resurrection ship turns up. They literally go from being head to head because of their different ideals to hang on a minute, we found something else to do.
Yeah.
So her hatred for the resurrection ship outweighs her fury about what happened with what was his name? The absolutely horrible guy that
Yeah, so we'll get to
Thorn.
that shortly. Yeah.
Thorn, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. So the start of this episode is really good
Yeah.
with how you're like, oh shoot, there's another ship,
You feel so much hope, and then it twists.
and well, yeah, you feel
so well
dread,
done.
and then it's like, oh no, it's the Pegasus. That's good. And then they do their whole meeting thing, and it's like,
They
this still
tell
seems
something slightly
nice.
off.
This still seems great. And it's like, welcome back to the fleet. And we're like, but you're one ship? I guess
Mhm.
you're the admiral, but you're one ship. This is the fleet. But okay, I guess. It's just
Yeah.
like things. And then you have the meeting with Kane, and then you're kind of like, oh, hang on. I feel like we're in this situation, we are the president.
Mhm.
Because she's in that meeting, and
Yeah, she's in
Adama
that.
already knows what's happening and what's going to happen, and she's just like, "Well, hang on, what?" And she's like, and Adama's like, "Well, yeah, she's my boss. She's in charge now. That's how it goes."
Yeah, and
You know?
it's kind of amazing because they've only just about got to a stage where they truly understand and work well together, and then immediately she's going to have to deal with a new military
Yeah. So
structure.
she's not too happy about that.
Yeah,
We're not too happy about that.
No.
Again, great actress.
Still stand by she's an awful person.
Oh god, yeah.
Razor did not change that. She
It's okay
is.
to look at Razor and say this is why she's awful, but she's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. It's an explanation, not an excuse.
Yeah,
Exactly.
certainly has some.
which is
some
why I
trouble
never
with the
straight
cast,
out
but-
went and said, "Oh, there's stuff, that will vindicate her." I always said there's extra context,
Extra context.
and that
That's
is
a great way
basically
to
what
word
it
it.
is.
Indeed.
It's. Can we also just point out as well, this episode's use of music is insane. From Pegasus' theme at the very start, when they're just beginning to realize that it's Pegasus, to I think "Meeting of the Gods" is the tune that plays when they arrive on Galactica,
Probably.
to eventually the Prelude to War track, which plays at the very end as Galactica and Pegasus are squaring up.
Lot of ominous stuff
Yeah,
in this one, and also great stuff. So yeah, Thorn's a person. He kind of sucks.
yeah. Okay, let's
Turns
talk about
out
Thorn.
they've got a sign on themselves, which is a 6. And they've just been really terrible.
Yes, they've been unspeakable things have been done by this Thorn
By
fella,
Thorn on
guy.
Kane's orders.
Lieutenant
Yeah.
Thorn, on the orders of Kane, and he's now
Mhm.
been sent to do it to Caprica Boomer.
While Guy Spoltar has been sent to try and speak to this 6.
Yeah, the idea being that they've both had successes in opposite directions, really. So let's
Well,
see
they
what
hadn't.
happens.
They'd
Well,
had
they
no
hadn't.
success, which is why it makes it even more stupid that they're
Yes.
like, yeah, they'll send him to go do this.
This is true, but that's not what Kane claims to Adama, is it?
No, it's not.
So they send him to try and get, I don't know, something out of Caprica Boomer. God knows what Kane told him to do, but he ends up getting stopped by
Hilo and
Hilo and
Tyrrell, wasn't it?
Ty.
Tyrrell both
Not
kind
Ty,
of
Tyrrell.
discover from the people on Pegasus what he's like, and
Yeah.
and they're kind of like, oh, absolutely not. Which is even more interesting now that we've seen Razor,
Yep.
because they both care about Sharon, even
Mhm.
though she's now Cylon.
Yep.
Kane had a relationship
With that
this,
6.
and she's just like, nope, just anything. And again, it's just like the parallel of like,
Do they trust her? Are they very angry with her? Sure. Do they still care about her? Yes. And Kane is just, completely the
Do
other
what
way.
you want to make it happen.
Yeah.
Um,
We also get some stuff going on with Starbuck and Apollo, because they get transferred to Pegasus,
They
because
do.
Kane doesn't like the fact that they are under Adama and that they're distracting him and they're getting away with stuff that they shouldn't be. And Apollo gets demoted, which he
Yep.
takes surprisingly well.
He does.
And Starbuck does Starbuck things and takes the Blackbird out to go and have a look at the Cylon fleet, which is where they discover
Indeed.
the Resurrection ship.
Indeed.
Oh,
I
that was such a pretty ship.
It's a really cute, really cool ship.
Which, of
really
course,
interesting design.
moves us on. After, of course, they then get into a bit of a battle.
No, we're not done just yet.
Not yet. You got more
no.
to talk about. Well, hey.
The Gaius Baltar's best speech.
Oh yes, we do, don't we?
I can't
So we
remember
get-
exactly what he says, but he's like, "I'm Dr. Gaius Baltar, and I'm here to help you," or something. It's actually really cool.
Yeah,
Baltar
it's
trying to help Six, not
so
Six.
the
she's got
Six in his
name.
head gives a speech to him, I think, at the start of the episode, and he
Yeah.
basically repeats it word to word
Mm-hmm.
to the Six, the real Six,
Yeah.
in the brig, and you get his head Six going, "No, you can't tell her that. That's between us. I'm not her."
Yeah. Head Six
Gets
and
very jealous.
Baltar are very off and on this season. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, then at the end, it's like, well, you killed my person when he was trying to do completely legitimate things
That are not terrible in any way, shape, or form. So now I'm going to kill them without trial.
Yeah.
Because I'm plain and I suck.
Well, they were given a
and-
trial. The trial was she showed up and she was like, "You're guilty," and then that was the end of the trial.
Yeah, so I'm counting it as not a trial.
And yeah, then we waited for a bit because we went off and watched some other stuff. So it was a great cliffhanger.
Yes, we so season 2 is divided into season 2.0 and 2.5. Because
2.0 is pretty great, consistently.
Yep.
And then there's 2.5.
Which has a bit of an interesting history, and we'll get into that with this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cabincast. For more episodes, go to www.cabincast.podbean.com or use the Podbean app. You can now also find us on iTunes and Pocket Casts under Cabincast and on YouTube. The uploads here are quite kind. Finally, you can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Cabincast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.